Generative AI is shaking up the art world and not everyone is happy about it. Some say it's the end of creativity, while others, they see it as a revolution. So is AI the villain or the next big thing for artists? I'm Thorgeir, and today we're diving into the fears, the possibilities, and what this really means for the future of creativity. Let's break it down and let's figure out what generative AI really means for us artists. Let's start with the elephant in the room. Why do so many artists dislike generative AI? If you're an artist that feels like generative AI has stolen some of the soul of art, then you're not alone. Many artists see AI as a threat, believing it devalues their years of training and creative labor. It almost feels like something you spent a lifetime mastering can now be replicated in seconds just by typing a few words into a box. I get it. It's frustrating. It feels like a shortcut that cuts away the heart of what makes art meaningful. Beyond that, there's a fear of losing jobs. Generative tools can churn out iterations and illustrations, concept art, all at a speed that no human can match. And for artists who make their living from that kind of work, that feels like an existential threat. And there's a valid and ethical debate too about intellectual property, especially when AI is trained on existing works without the consent of the artists. There's also the concern that the art generated by the AI, it lacks the human touch, the emotions, the experiences, and the unique perspectives that make a piece of art resonate on a deeper level. But here's how I see it. We've been here before. Think back to the 1990s when digital art tools like Photoshop first emerged. Traditional artists at the time had very similar fears. They felt that digital art was a shortcut, that it undermined the hard-earned skills of painting, sculpting, and other traditional forms of artistic expression. They argued that it was a lesser kind of art because you could undo the mistakes. You could change colors instantly. You didn't have to get paint on your fingers. The early reaction was very much what we're seeing now with generative AI. Skepticism, rejection, and even fear. But fast forward to today, and digital art is not just widely accepted, it is very much celebrated. It opened up new avenues for creativity and let artists explore styles and techniques that traditional media couldn't support. It became another way to express oneself, not a replacement of what came before. And that's what brings us to generative AI. It's not here to replace artists. It's a tool, just like a camera or paintbrush or a stylus. The creativity still comes from you, your vision, and your ability to see the potential where others don't. The drive to say something meaningful, that still is in you. Let's address another point. The perception that AI-generated art is inherently lesser. Okay, there's been studies that show that people tend to devalue art if they know that it's AI-generated, even if they can't tell the difference visually. This implicit bias is something that we need to confront as a community. If we judge art purely based on its origin, are we perhaps missing out on the potential of what this art is trying to communicate or evoke? Now, a bit of personal point here. I work with software engineers, and I can tell you that they're some of the most creative people that I have ever met. You don't always see it because the art that they generate is in the form of programming code. But here's the thing. They too face the fear of being replaced. Generative AI can now write code also, just in the same way as it can create art. But instead of resisting it, many of them are learning to use it to push the boundaries, to do what they couldn't do alone. There's an art in the way that you guide these models to achieve your creative goal, whether it's in programming or in art. The same opportunities are here for artists. Imagine using generative AI to collaborate across boundaries that once felt too big to cross. I think AI is the great equalizer. Let's take an example. Software engineers, programmers, they can now generate art. They can create highly realistic portrait photos in any style imaginable. Artists can now also generate code. So what used to be the domain of the programmer now has overlapped into the domain of the artist. The artist now doesn't have to spend months or years learning how to program in a single programming language. They can program in pretty much any programming language just by using simple prompts. So artists can create code and developers can create art. And this applies to everyone. Anyone can now generate code, generate art, generate business plans, marketing content. I think we're living in a very fascinating time in history. I'm actually working on a beginner's course in coding with AI. So if you want to learn the ins and outs of AI programming, then make sure to subscribe if you don't want to miss it. So what do you think? Can generative AI be a partner in creativity rather than a threat? Head over to the new community page on artanddesign.tv/community, the links are in the description, and share your views. Discuss traditional art versus generative art, or anything else that inspires you. Until next time, I'm Þorgeir. Keep creating. See you in the next video. Bye bye.